Welcome along to Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore, Luke, Stephen and KJ here as we are a little under 24 hours out from TFC's final game of the group stage. And right now we're going to head to Vancouver for our first guest today, former TFC man, now with Vancouver Whitecaps, Canadian international, of course. Tosaint Ricketts is joining us on the show. One of the things we've talked about before on this show is the fact that this tournament is giving a lot of people the chance to see a lot of games. Even TFC head coach Greg Vanney said to us a couple of days ago that maybe during a regular season, with all the travel you're doing, you don't have a chance to watch every single game that there is going in Major League Soccer. But right now, the games are spread out, morning, nighttime, a couple of games as well. Everyone's getting the opportunity to see other teams, some entertaining games, including that. I mean, the San Jose game. I don't know if you've ever seen one quite like that 4-3 for the Whitecaps with everything that was going on there. But what have you made of the whole tournament and the goals, I suppose? I mean, it would have been perfect for you because it seems like defending isn't exactly something that is being practiced right now in Orlando on a great deal of occasions.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that, players are just coming from quarantine. There's not much connection between the teammates and, everyone's still trying to get fit and still trying to get that connectivity through the team. So, I mean, as a striker, it's a dream tournament. And but, I mean, for the neutral viewer, I think it's fantastic. A lot of knocks on soccer is that they're low-scoring games, not very entertaining, but I think the fans are getting what they want out of this. And for the neutral fan, I think it's been quite enjoyable.
When you look at your time in Toronto, we've got a highlight here that we're going to show you. A game that everybody still talks about across Major League Soccer was that Eastern Conference final against Montreal back in 2016. Producer Kev is going to start sharing the screen here so we can just watch this moment. Just talk us through, for you, this night and what this moment was as a Canadian player playing in this game, and how you still look back on what went down that night. Wow.
Magical. I mean, it was a moment, it was a night that I'll never forget. And even this run right here, even though Josie, his back was to the goal, he still had a lot to do. I just knew he would break through, and then I just made that run from half, and then just the desire, the emotions, and just the supporters backing us through a grim night in terms of weather and conditions. It's, like someone just wrote right now, goosebumps. That's exactly the feeling I get. And what a special night.
The whole playoff was pretty special for you, though, wasn't it, Toss? Because if I remember, you came on in every game. I don't think the team even conceded a goal when you were on there. I know in hockey they have like plus minus or something, but wasn't it 0-0 when you came on against New York, and then you scored 2 goals, and obviously you were involved in that game as well, and then you came on in Yankee Stadium when you scored all those goals as well. I feel like that, I might be wrong, but I don't think you were on the field at all when a team conceded a goal in that playoff run.
I don't remember. I just know a lot of goals were scored when I was on the field, and being up there with Josie and Seba, they're world-class players in my opinion, and they provided me with so many options, so many goal-scoring opportunities, just from the defenders they track and from the trickiness of Seba and his ability. It was a dream to play with those two, and it showed in the goals and the performances we put on together.
Nick DeLeon is here. He'll join us right now on Footy Talks from the bubble at the Disney, Swan and Dolphin hotels as TFC gets set for the game in the MLS is back tournament to wrap up the group stage, Group C action tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you back on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Luke, Stephen, Christian.
How is life in the bubble right now?
Long, boring days. Soccer's really the only outlet here for me. So just trying to fill the day with activities, books, reading, stuff to pass the time. And soccer's the escape.
So how do you pass the time, Nick? What's going on the floor right now? I know you guys have got pretty strong protocols as well. So what are you, a video game guy? No. So what does Nick DeLeon do apart from FaceTiming his beautiful kids?
Netflix. Usually will take a couple walks during the day around. We have like a mile walking path around the hotel. So I'll usually get out and do a walk or two a day. kind of clear the head. A lot of Netflix, books, and then the occasional rabbit hole. I love a good conspiracy rabbit hole, so those can get you going for a couple hours as well.
Nice.
Okay, give us the top 3 series on Netflix. What you're watching? Everyone, I want to know what you're watching.
Right now, Hannibal. I'm pretty into like serial killer, that type of lane. The mentality of those people it always makes you think on another level. So it's always intriguing. Like First 48, those type of shows. That's really what I'm into. But other than that, that's about it, man. I mean, I'll watch a lot of soccer at night. And let's see. Right now, it's really Hannibal. Dude, I watch so many shows. I honestly forget. They go in, they go out. It's to pass the time.
Chewing gum for the eyes.
There was one time I was on loan. I need to tell you guys a story. I think I was at Leeds, maybe Bradford, and my thing was the cinema back then. And I went to the cinema and I looked at the board, and there's 12, 14 movies, and I'd seen every one, guys. I'd been to every single movie. So I don't think you can get to the end of Netflix, Nick, but give it a go, mate. You might get there by the end of this tournament.
Steven, your story it lines up with it exactly. By the end of it, you're checking them off the list.
But I bet the birthday celebrations were rocking. Go for you, Nick.
Yeah, it came at a good time because we had an off day the next day, so I got to let loose a little bit, have a couple drinks, kind of a little escape, which was nice. Big 30th birthday, yeah, it was a milestone birthday. I think the guys made it. They did what they could to make it special, so I definitely felt that.
Annie says on the chat here that to let you know that Hannibal was shot in Toronto and the food stylist is brilliant. She has a Hannibal-related cookbook and blog, which apparently might be slightly better than the bubble food, but who knows?
Yes, I think any cookbook would be better than the bubble food cookbook.
Let's talk about the tournament so far. You're sitting pretty right now in terms of advancing. It would take an almighty mathematical swing not to get through. So even as one of the best third-place teams, coming into this final game, obviously it's regular season points. Greg Vanney's talked about the fact you get an extra off day if you finish first in the group. How much does that matter as opposed to just continuing to get better as a group moving forward here with a goal much bigger than just qualifying for the next stage?
Yeah, we're kind of looking at this as a progression. You know, it still feels, for me, it's like almost like a glorified preseason tournament, something similar to that, where everybody's still getting their legs under them, and you're building game by game. You're making adjustments game by game, and that's really all I'm looking at. Man. As long as we're growing and we're learning every game, moving forward together as a group, I see this as a success. As far as winning the tournament, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the best soccer team. It's going to be the one with the strongest mentality. So there's just a lot of hoops and hurdles you have to jump through as far as routines getting thrown out the window, game times being, 2 9 a.m. games. It's just little random things like that. Where it's all going to be, it's a mental battle, a big portion of it. So as long as we're continuing to, like I said, progress, which I feel like we are, and the guys are very receptive to that, that's a win for me. And these points are important as far as moving forward. If there is something after this tournament, that's going to be important moving forward. So that's kind of my mindset, and I would say the majority of the guys' mindset moving forward, as long as we progress as a group and we're getting better, we're not staying stagnant. And then ultimately, it would be nice to win, but that's more important for me.
Nick, let's talk a little bit about the mindset. You talk about progression. I was talking to Quentin Westberg after the Montreal game, and he was talking about the reaction following that first game. Greg Vanney used the word embarrassed about how the team played in that second half. But you guys dug deep, didn't you, against Montreal to finally get over the line and win the game? Probably a fair reflection of how you played. How was that feeling after the Montreal game to go out there and do it? Because I know some softer team, so to speak, may have folded a little bit more after that collapse against DC.
Yeah. I just want to mention one thing stuck out for me after that at DC game, because it definitely felt like a loss for us and more like a win for DC. Is right after that game, Alejandro Pozuelo is becoming, he's elevated to me to another level this year, leadership-wise and play-wise. And he was one of the first guys to rally the group and say, it really doesn't matter. We'll take our lessons we learn from that, and we move forward, and we apply that to Montreal. And I feel like coming from a guy like that, with his stature, a lot of guys listen and a lot of guys follow that. And then when you go and you move into Montreal, when you play Montreal, there's always going to be twists and turns. There's always going to be drama. But you saw the mentality, you saw the hunger from the guys to keep fighting and to keep playing. And to get that win, especially against Montreal, I think was just a result of that.
What are some of the big differences with Pozuelo, Nick? Do you feel like he feels more comfortable within the squad, or we've mentioned the fitness thing? He definitely looks fitter and like he can get around the park more. Probably enjoyed the rest, I guess, from the pandemic and from the huge season he had coming from Europe, coming first of all to TFC. But the leadership one's interesting for me because he was certainly a leader at his previous clubs. Do you feel like he's took on way more responsibility there?
I think you hit it on the head. First off, I think he definitely enjoyed the time off. It was a lot of months of consistent play under those legs. So he definitely looks a lot sharper, a lot fitter, his movement. And yeah, that's speaking for itself. I mean, he's got 5 of the 6 assists of our goals. But his biggest jump for me was just what you said. His leadership, for me, has gone to another level. He stepped into that role off the field. And you could tell when he first came, there was a lot of, you could see frustration, I guess. But that's not there this year. He's just more about, as I said, being a leader on and off the field. And young guys, and I mean, especially coming from a DP, you're going to get behind that type of energy and that type of leadership. So for him to do that is only going to take this club and a lot of these young players to the next level. And a fine product of that is what's happening with Ayo. I mean, my goodness, this kid he's had an incredible start.
Well, let's talk about that now, Nick, because nobody would have predicted. In fact, when we did the TSN tournament preview show and talked about potential Golden Boot winners in the tournament, funnily enough, his name wasn't at the top of our list in terms of who might win the Golden Boot. But there he is now, 5 goals alongside Diego Rossi. And one of the telling things, I think, for me has been how a lot of the players, including Michael Bradley after the game last week, were talking about how pleased they are for him, how much he's won the respect of everybody within the locker room in recent weeks before this, for the way that he's applied himself, the way he's been working so hard to get to this position. And that he's a different Ayo Akinola now to the one he was a year ago. He was on the show last week and talked about that, how much he's grown up mentally as well. So are you surprised the extent of what he's been able to achieve here coming in?
Well, his mentality has definitely changed. You can see that by the way he carries himself, presents himself, even in training. He's a lot more engaged throughout the full session. So like you said, he is maturing right before our eyes. But one thing that I really loved about after that game, he scored that hat trick, and everybody's gloating, giving him high fives, just throwing water out, whatever. It's a little party for him. And one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, and he just said, Nick, it's whatever. It's on to the next one. And to have that kind of mentality, I think is only going to serve him in the long run. You can't get too high because it is only 2 games. You can't get too low. He still has that hunger to progress and to do that every game. And that's kind of one thing I've been trying to tell him is the thing that separates players like that, great players from good players, is consistency. So you have to stay hungry, you have to stay humble, and you have to be willing to put the work in. This can't just be a little blip. You have to produce this on a consistent level. And that seemed very clear to him before I even said that. So that type of mentality is only going to serve him good for the long run.
Nick, one of the reasons why you're one of my favorite guests on this show is because the way you just talked about Ayo, the way you talked about Pozuelo, I see you as being someone who's very perceptive. You obviously read a lot of people. Is that fair and something that you are away from the football field? And also, does it help you when you play different positions? Because as I said before, you're a little bit of a Swiss Army knife for Greg Banner. You can go anywhere he puts you on the field. Does that help you when you get on the field, knowing you've got different duties to perform depending on the position you play?
Yeah, I think that's just a little bit of my personality. It's my personality trait. I'm a little more of an introvert. So naturally, I'm not talking, I'm listening, and I'm watching, and I'm observing. And I take in a lot of information that way. So I think you're right. It definitely does help me, especially with what I've become. I like to label it a Swiss Army knife. I can play multiple positions. So that's a good example why, because I am very observant, and I don't know, it's just kind of my personality. Like I said, I don't like to talk very much in public. So naturally, I'm going to listen, watch, and observe.
I also get the feeling, though, when you talk, Nick, that the squad listens, the guys sit up and take notice. And culture's been mentioned a lot about your team. And I find it very interesting, your comments on Akinola there and how he's saying next game and, looking forward kind of mentality. Is that down to the group of people and the culture that you guys have set, that when a youngster's coming in and he's starting to mature, that he completely understands his role and what his mindset has to be to achieve success, sustained success with a club like TFC?
Yeah. As being an older player, veteran now, that's a role I've accepted and I want to use. I mean, I want nothing but the best for these young guys. You can see you're there with them every day. You see the talent. And it's just about nurturing the talent, because I've seen it go the other way, where you can get a big head and then the ego goes, and then players don't want to play with you, and then it can go down the wrong road. And it can go the other way, where you're not hungry enough, and then you fall off. So it's about staying even keel. And for me, being a veteran, that's part of my job, I feel, moving forward for this club, is to help nurture those young guys, because I want nothing but the best. I want them to make millions of dollars and have a successful career. That put a smile on my face, and I guess that's kind of the role, part of my role that I've adopted being with TFC.
What time's the alarm set for in the morning, Nick?
Doesn't matter what time the alarm's set for. I'm up at 6 a.m. every morning.
and you've been through this once before. Is it an early bed? Are you able to get to sleep? Do you just go short on sleep tonight?
So what I think the club's done really well is we've stuck to the same schedule the whole time. Ever since we got here, we've trained at we leave the hotel at 7:40. So everybody's kind of internal clock is naturally getting up early. So by now we're used to it. I just heard a story from another team who halfway was doing 9:30 trainings, going to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then halfway through they switched to doing 7:40 training. So I can only imagine that transition. But for us, it's been fairly smooth, very easy. You're just used to it now. And I would say 9:30 I'm in bed, 10 o'clock lights out, asleep in between 10 and 10:30 every day. So I still get a good amount of sleep. That's just kind of the schedule we've had to adjust to. And that's not far from my schedule at home with the kids.
That's a good one.
So it's been easy transition for me.
Nick, thanks so much for taking the time. We'll let you get back to Hannibal and whatever else you've got planned for the afternoon here down there in the bubble, but we really appreciate it. Always welcome on the show. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke. And you hit it on the head. Back to Hannibal.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks to you for being with us on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore. Great to have everyone along for the ride. And thanks also to Tosaint Ricketts and to Nick DeLeon. Once again, great couple of guests giving some excellent insight. So we'll see you tomorrow. TFC New England. Until then, have a great day.